Look, I know you saw the thumbnail, and I know you think chess is hard, but let me show you the basic concepts of chess. Now, I've made this video strictly for masterminds like you, because I know you're so friggin' smart. In this video, you are going to learn the key concepts of chess, but first, I want to explain the pieces and what they do. After that, I'll explain how to set up a board, and then I'll show you a game I'll play with my dad. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I personally believe the pawn is the third most important piece you could have at your disposal. The first most important piece, obviously, being your king, and the second, most certainly, is your queen, of course. But of course, I know you may be asking, well, why is the pawn so valuable in your eyes, Jonathan? Well, for you to understand why I believe it's the most important, I have to explain what it does in the end game. Now let me list what the pawn can actually do. So the pawn can turn into a femboy queen, it can turn into a chivalrous knight, it can turn into a tower rook, and it can also turn into a sniper bishop. So the pawn can only attack diagonally. If a piece is diagonal of a pawn, it can officially take it. So it cannot take forward, because I see so many new players try to claim that the pawn can. It cannot. I've read the rule books. The decision I'm talking about, of course, is whether you move one square or two squares. Now, both moves are reasonable depending on what game you're trying to play. Now, a key feature of the pawn is known as en passant. Sorry. Now, what this essentially means is one pawn moves two squares forward. This is at the beginning of the game, so you can capture it if it's right in front of your pawn. But this only works if it's the first move the pawn makes. So afterwards, you cannot claim en passant no matter how much you want to. I'm letting you know that. And to me, those were all the reasons I argued that the pawn is probably one of the most valuable pieces you could have in your game. Now, I'm going to be honest here. The rook has always and will always be the omni-man of the game, hands down. Now, short and simple, the rook can move up and down, left and right, in any square it wants. So it can essentially zoom at lightning speed, like Freddie Mercury. But what if I told you, the rook only got stronger from here? So there's a move in chess named castling, and essentially castling is when your rook hasn't moved a single piece, and so your your king hasn't either. So you'll use your king, put him in a good spot next to the rook, and you'll essentially just swap. That's really the result to it. You just swap with the rook, and now your knight is better protected. The knight. And yes, it's called a knight. I'm so tired when people come up to me and call it a horsey. I'm talking about my dad. My dad always does this, and it gets me so annoyed, and I can't curse, so I can't express how I feel. Anyway, this piece can move in an L shape. It's also the only piece that can skip around other pieces. And yes, that ability to skip around is why it's so dangerous in the chess game. And just imagine this. One moment you think your king is safe, and then that dirty knight decides to move its position and get your king in a check. I get so pissed off when that happens. And yeah, while it's a sucky position to be in, it's a position you'll be in whenever you start playing chess. The bishop, aka Simo friggin' Hayaha. Now, you may ask, why, Jonah? Why do you compare this chess piece to just a Finnish sniper? Well, I compare this piece to Simo Hayaha because of one major reason. The bishop doesn't miss! Now, I'm sorry I overreacted in that part, but to be honest, the bishop moves diagonally, so it moves in an X shape. Drawing similarity to the rook, the bishop can move as many squares as it wants in its path. And that answers your question. I named it Simo Hayaha because it's quite literally the chess version of an elite sniper unit. Now it's time to talk about the queen. Oh, I don't mean that queen. Now, this queen is a lot less cool than the other queen, but this queen is still it's pretty fresh. Something cool about the queen is that the queen can move diagonally, just like the bishop. It can move in an X shape, like the bishop too. It can also move left, right, up, down, as much as it wants. So it has free roam over the chessboard, so long as it fits in those areas. So yes, that's why a lot of people on the internet, especially me, I'd say that this piece is arguably, or not really arguably, just in general, the strongest piece on your board. Think of it as Simo Hayaha and the Burj Khalifa all in one. Now, this piece should not be sacrificed unless you have a light Yagami level plan to beat your enemy. And finally, here comes the king. Of course, I'm talking about LeBron James! No, but in all seriousness, this piece is really important to the game. Now, the king can only move one square in every direction. The king must be protected under all circumstances, no matter what happens. Now, as I mentioned before, the king must be protected. So if your king gets into check, your game is almost over unless you move the king, or if you can get whatever piece is taking your king. But it's about time I finally get to what check and checkmate mean. Now, some people say checkmate when you're actually in check. Dad. My dad. Fernando Alvaro. But now I'm going to give you the clear difference between check and checkmate. Now, check is a warning sign. Check is a warning sign to your king. It's like, imagine whatever piece is attacking your king saying, "Hey, I've got a pistol, I'm about to shoot you, you better do something to get out of the way." So if you move your king to the right square, you'll essentially be fine. Or you can move another piece into harm's way to ensure your king is not captured. And now its brother is checkmate, of course. Now, checkmate is like the actual gunshot, like the king just fell. Oh my god, that was like perfect timing. I like shot the gun and the king actually fell on the floor. Look. Oh shoot, that was the queen. Now, checkmate can only happen if the king is directly in harm's way and there's no other way to get the king out of harm, or if there's no other piece to push in so the king doesn't get captured. Checkmate is essentially like, oh, I've won the game. There's no escape from me winning. And that's the clear difference between check and checkmate. The board is essentially just a checkered pattern. All the pawns are lined up on the second row of each color respectively. But the back row is the hardest one to set up, as it goes as follows: rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, and rook. Note for when you're playing the game, the queen always goes on the color that matches whatever color she is. Yeah, the board isn't that complicated. You'll understand it once you finish it. I mean, you'll understand it once you've done it a couple times like I have. Wait a second. Now that you know everything you'll need to know to play chess, I suggest you get yourself up from your bootstraps and challenge Magnus Carlsen. I assume that'll go well. In all seriousness, if you enjoyed my video, please consider subscribing. It would help me out a ton, and I personally want to go to college if you didn't already know. Yeah, you'd probably understand. You'd understand if you watched my first video, which will be linked in the description, by the way. You should definitely go check that out. But regardless, I just want to leave you with a thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing and liking. It would really help me out a ton. But in the end, that's the basics of chess.